In 1970s Britain, it was it wasn't considered to be a particularly a glamorous activity at all, fiction writing. People didn't really talk about novelists in the way they do today. And to some extent, I guess, contemporary writing had kind of sunk into a little bit of a gloom. So most people who wanted to do creative things, particularly who were interested in writing, were drawn to things like the fringe theatre movement, which was very vibrant at the time, or television, or and particularly songwriting. And that's what really drew me, the kind of more lyrical side of the rock music that was going on then. And we're talking about the 70s, so this was the era of the great singer-songwriters, the pantheon that you mentioned earlier, you know, Bob Dylan, Leonard Cohen, Joni Mitchell, Neil Young, Jackson Browne, I don't know, and so on. And so, yeah, that was my first ambition. I wanted to be a songwriter. And I wrote over 100 songs, and I used to spend a lot of time with other people in the area who were very serious about writing songs and performing them, you know, arguing late into the night, as I suppose writers are supposed to do, about, you know, the right way to use a lyric and what the relationship was between the words and the music. How, in our case, we could prevent ourselves from sounding horribly mid-Atlantic. Because all our heroes were Americans, and it seemed to be a very American idiom, that kind of songwriting. And so how could we actually find our own identity, you know, given where we lived and our traditions, and all these kind of things I became very involved in. But I think I served my apprenticeship as a novelist, writing songs. I often see starting out writers, whether they're young or whatever physical age they are, going through a lot of the stages I went through in my songwriting. And so I found that by the time I stopped writing songs, around the time I was 22, my final songs were, they had more or less kind of shaped for me my tone, my voice that I adopted when I began to write fiction. My last songs and my first short stories are very, very similar in tone and style. And so yeah, that's where I, to some extent, that's where I wrote my autobiographical novel and my kind of experimenting with language novel. I did it all in my songwriting, and towards the end, I'd come down to doing very simple lyrics, very simple melodies, trying to get that sense of the meaning coming behind the words or between the lines.